Hi Parker, how are you?
I'm good, Rachel. How are you?
I'm doing well. So right off the bat, I have to say, while this movie itself will stay with you, I think the trailers for Smile are going to be some of those things that people are like, remember when that was in theaters? Because that was the most like vocal reaction I've ever heard to trailers in a really long time because it was either people really excited or people were like, not this creepy Smile movie again. And so for you as a creative, how has the success and the praise for Smile been? Because this is your first feature, and it is everyone just kind of gushing over this movie, which is
Yeah.
gushing over this horror movie that is very traumatizing. But
Yeah, I mean, it's been really surreal. I think, as a filmmaker, you spent a very long time sort of just like screaming into the void, desperate for anybody to like turn and even like glance in your direction, and then to suddenly have made a movie that seems to have that audience seems to have embraced in the way that they have. A Smile is like nothing short of incredible. It's been the most satisfying part of the whole journey, as is hearing from people who really connected with it.
and you wrote and directed it. So what kind of inspired you in the first place? Because it does give me like the Ring vibes, but that's only because that was like when I was growing up was the horror movie everyone talked about. But
Yeah.
it is the passing on of the curse and kind of like that those themes that we tend to really like in our horror movies.
Yeah, I mean, I love The Ring. I love Ringu. I think Smile was certainly, my love letter to the sort of like cursed chain subgenre of horror. But I was hoping to, put a character at the center of it that felt a little different and maybe more
Yeah.
grounded and honest, and that what she's contending with, like, yes, there's all these really bombastic external elements that are sort of encroaching upon her life, but that what she's really dealing with is this internal turmoil that is all about her history and her own trauma and guilt and anxieties, and how all of that external stuff comes into her life and is filtered through that lens, was really important to me. And I know you asked like what else inspired me. There's a few films that I've talked about, but like
Mhm.
there's this wonderful Japanese horror film called Cure by Kiyoshi
Mhm.
Kurosawa, that is like got such a nightmarish atmosphere and pairs horror with like an investigative angle that I really love. That movie was on my mind. Rosemary's Baby, the way that Mia Farrow's character is being, gaslit over and over and over again and told that what she's experiencing is wrong and that her feelings are wrong, is just like, endlessly sort of relatable. And then one of my favorite films of all time is Todd Haynes' Safe, starring Julianne Moore. And the way that movie places you inside the anxiety of a character where you can't tell sort of what she's feeling, whether it's happening in her head or if it's real, as she goes down that rabbit hole. Like, that's a very like potent movie, and those were just some of the things I was thinking about while making Smile.
Well, I mean, that's interesting that every single one of them, or for the most part, has a female protagonist because I really do like Rose as a character. And I also, it took me until on TikTok to realize that Sophie is Kevin Bacon's daughter because I was just like,
And Kira
oh, she's
Sedgwick, by the way.
yeah, and Kira Sedgwick. But
Yeah.
it was because they were dancing on TikTok together, her and Kevin Bacon, and I was like, hold on, just didn't register. But uh, with a character like Rose, it's interesting because she's obviously trying to find a way to survive, which is part of the genre, but it's done in such a really kind of it's a cool way because it's way more psychological, I think, than a lot of other horror movies tend to be. Is that for you as a creative more is that more interesting to kind of like play with the psychological fear versus like, the guy in a corner with an axe or like the
Oh
jump
yeah,
at you kind of fear?
always. Yeah, for me, it doesn't matter what's going bump in the night in a horror film. A horror film can't scare me unless I'm like deeply invested in the main character and the character's plight and journey and all of that. I mean, I think that the best horror films, in my opinion, are ones that use horror as a way to sort of explore the human condition and the, you know, the psychology and the psychological nature of that is totally part of that. And for every big explosive thing that'll make you like jump out of your seat and scream, I think it's the psychological elements that'll sort of like creep under your skin and linger with you like after the credits roll. Like that's the stuff that you think about down the line.
Oh, yeah. And it is, this movie is coming out at the same time as like not a boom in horror because it didn't really go anywhere, but we're doing like our horror is changing as a genre because it is more geared towards like not just Jordan Peele, but like Us and Nope and things like that. And even like the remake of It and like how we're looking at horror is shifting. Is that, and now obviously Smile is part of that because everyone is talking about it in line with that kind of approach. Is it for you as a director and a writer, is that more enticing for you to like do more horror or is this like I've done horror, now I want to move on? Like where do you fall now that Smiles come out and you can move on to whatever other project?
You know, I think I mean that's interesting to like hear you say. I mean, it, you know, Smile being part of any conversation is like incredible to me, and I'm extremely like humbled and grateful for that. But you know, I sort of think like as a filmmaker, inevitably I'm drawn to the things that are sort of like lodged in my brain, the things that I can't put down, the things I find myself thinking about, the stories that I want to tell, sort of, you know, all sort of start certainly through like there's always inspirations, but like, you know, it's always kind of organic. And you know, I love stories that are you know, anxiety inducing or stressful or frightening, definitely, but it's always, again, it's always about telling like an interesting character story to me, and what the best way into that is. I would love to tell more horror stories. I think inevitably anything I make, if I'm so lucky as to keep getting to make movies, there will always be some sort of like edge of your seat, like stressful element to it, whether it's like pure horror or if it's, you know, something that's a little horror adjacent. But yeah, I think I'm just drawn to that sort of storytelling, I suppose. I don't know if that was a good answer.
Oh no, it is. It's also very like I used to do theater, and so I'm always interested when people are more character driven versus plot. Because I was like, that's how I am. So that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
But for those who haven't seen Smile yet, what do you hope audiences take away from the film?
You know, I think, gosh, you know, again, I think you put a movie out into the world and like you don't really get to like own it anymore as the director. I think it belongs to audiences, and I never want to like steer anyone's experience with the film. You know, I don't want to put my thumb on the scale. You know, I think that some of the themes and motifs and emotionalities that the movie is dealing with, I think that the experience of the character, what it might be like to be going through something that no one around you can understand, and what it's like to, you know, feel like your mind is turning against you, or that you are cursed by the stuff that you're carrying around inside of your head, that people might, you know, stop and give a second thought to what people are going through in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, I can't wait for everyone who didn't see it in theaters to get to see it now. And thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was really great, Rachel. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a good one.